This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Whitmer here, and welcome in to another edition of the Onside Kick right here on MVP Sports or MVP Vids, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, wherever you're listening or watching to us or watching us. Thank you. I am joined with my co-host here of the Onside Kick, JD, the Don of MVP. JD, how we doing? How we doing on this Thursday evening?
We're doing great, dude. You know, week's almost done. Weekend, got football coming up.
JD hoping his team can finally get a win.
Yeah.
Who you guys play this week?
Kansas City.
Oh yeah, you guys might get a win. That's a big might.
Yeah.
That could be an L as quick. It's at Arrowhead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Burrowhead.
Okay. Well, yeah, Burrowhead. The last time we called it Burrowhead, though, the refs helped the Chiefs win. Remember that?
Yeah.
All right. There were some questionable calls down at the end. Plus, T Swizzle will be there, and you can't win when T Swizzle's in the building. How dare you win when T Swizzle's in the building?
Yeah.
How dare you think you can win?
Maybe she has some other political commitment.
Maybe there's commitments, but we're here for the Onside Kick to talk about all the biggest news and happenings going on in the NFL. Before we start, JD, I have a special announcement. Last week, I told you guys, it's going to be our first mock draft. Blame me. I was literally sitting there 2 days ago. We're going to record, and I'm like, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to, A, do the mock draft, which is the most important part. 2, I'm like, I didn't put the back, behind the scenes stuff that the patrons get. So we're punting. We're punting the mock draft a week. It'll be mock. See, I just wanted mock draft big board in the same week. That's just what I was going for with the draft room and the Onside Kick. So we will have our first mock draft. It will be next week. Therefore, today, we'll just be talking about normal sports news. What happened week 1 and stuff like that. You were going to say something. You opened your mouth.
No, I was just yawning.
Okay.
It's late.
It had that look like you went
No,
I want to say something, but then I stopped. Ricky didn't stop talking.
No, I was trying to conceal it.
You need a Red Bull. You need some energy.
Oh, brother. Yeah, I do.
You need some energy through them bones.
Been a long day.
But we got housekeeping as always. If you're not in the MVP Discord, join the MVP Discord. You can support us on Patreon, social medias. All of our links are down below in the description. You can also comment, subscribe, hit that like button, notification button, subscription if you want to continue hearing the podcast each and every week. But JD, first thing we're talking about today. This is a story from about a week ago now. We were supposed to record yesterday. Life happens. We had to punt today. We're here on Thursday. Last Friday is when this team played. That's why I say it's almost a week ago. The Green Bay Packers played in Brazil against the Philadelphia Eagles. Game was officially over. Hail Mary might have won it, but let's be honest, Packers weren't going to get it. And Jordan Love goes down with an injury. The fear is that he tore his ACL. He will be out for the season. Now, the day after, luckily, ACL was intact. It was just, I believe, an MCL sprain, so he didn't tear anything in the knee, but he will be out 4 to 6 weeks with this knee injury. And I'm just going to hit you with the Frank, JD. The question that we are asking today is, how will the Packers fare without Jordan Love? They got 4 to 6 weeks without him. Malik Willis, it's your time. You thought you'd be starting in Tennessee, but you're starting in Green Bay.
Yeah, I think they, unfortunately for the Packers, I really do think that this has the potential to completely derail their season.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, again, maybe Malik Willis will surprise us, but he's been in the league now for about 3. Yeah, this is year 3 for him.
This is his 3rd year.
And he hasn't gotten the opportunity to play much, and when he has played, he was very limited with throwing the ball. He was mainly just used as a runner.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe he can surprise us, but unfortunately, usually with MCLs, it's usually closer to that 6 week
Mm-hmm.
that the player will come back.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, I mean, I'm sure they can maybe squeak out a win or two with that defense, and I don't know their schedule off the top of my head.
I got you. Don't worry. I
All
got
right.
you.
So let me finish this thought
Yep.
then, and
Yep.
then we
Yep.
can go
Yep.
over that. But yeah, but like with a like you could say this with any team. Without your starting quarterback, your season kind of goes down into the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate because the Packers, this was probably going to be their first year where, like, since they're like retool or rebuild, where
Their
they could
best shot to win the
actually
Super Bowl.
maybe not win, but at least
Make
compete
it.
for, yeah, at least make the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, obviously they can still make the playoffs. It's just hypothetically if they go like 1-5
Mm-hmm.
now, let's say. I mean, they're gonna have to hope that when Love comes back, that he's just dialed and they ring off like I won't probably for the A or NFC North, you probably need about 11 wins at
Mm-hmm.
least to win the division, and
Mm-hmm.
then maybe in the NFC you could maybe squeak in with 10.
Yeah.
So you would pretty much need to win like 9 more games
Mm-hmm. And
to have a
you've
chance
already
at
lost to the Eagles, so
yeah.
that's one game you can't win. I'll say this: their next 6 games this week, they're at home against the Colts. Then week 3, they're on the road against Tennessee. Then week 4 at home against Minnesota. Week 5 at LA to play the Rams. Week 6 home against Arizona. And then week 7 home against Houston. Here's a good thing about their schedule. And this is the thing I was going to focus on first. The good thing about their schedule, there are 2, maybe 3 winnable games within this stretch. If you win 2 of these games, I think you're fine. And people are gonna say, Ricky, how could you be fine if you lose 3 of the like if it's 6 games and you lose 4 of the next 2, you're already at 5 losses. Jordan Love's gonna have to come back and just be perfect almost the rest of the way. And after the injury, 2 against the Lions, 2 against the Bears. I know the Bears. Oh, Ricky, the Bears were overhyped. Da, da, da. It was week 1. By the time they play the Bears, it'll be week 11. Bears will have about 9 or 10 games underneath their big old bear claws. But here's the thing. Could you survive by just winning 2 of these games? Yes. To me, it's a bare minimum of you have to beat the Titans, you have to beat the Cardinals. Those are your winnable games. The Cardinals showed they're not that good. Kyler Murray, exactly what I was saying entering the season. What is Kyler not going to be able to do? Get Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball. He's not good enough. He can't get him the ball. Arizona, that should be a win, even with Malik Willis. Then you got Tennessee. That's going to be a whole new game. Because this game is all about setting Willis up for success. You've had a week to do it. Hey, we're going to cater the game plan to you. We're going to make it as easy as possible. With then 2 weeks under, you start to expand a little bit. I'm sorry, heading into next week, and I know I'm jumping ahead. Heading into next week, you know what I'm feeding Malik Willis a dose of?
What?
Hey, man, this is your time. This is your time to get revenge. They didn't want you. They didn't want you. They traded you to us for nothing. Show them where they were wrong. Show them that they were wrong and you are the right choice. Put Will Levis in his place. That's basically what I'd be preaching to him for that revenge game. Those are the 2 minimums. Besides that, let's be honest. Colts and Houston, probably both losses for sure. The Vikings, wouldn't have said this before the year, but now that might be If Darnold looked as solid as he did in week 1, that might be a loss. The Rams, I say, is questionable, but the Rams played well against the Lions. So it's like, to me, if I'm the Packers, I'm kind of thinking, and I'm thinking as like a fan front office, right? I'm not thinking coach or player. I'm thinking, okay, expect to lose Houston and Indy. Expect to win Tennessee, Arizona. Hope we can steal one against Minnesota or LA. That's how you got to look at it.
Yeah, and after you name that schedule, it made me feel a little bit better about their chances or
Mm-hmm.
their outlook, I guess, because yeah, I could see them beating uh the Cardinals just based off their defense. The Vikings again, they're like you said, more the wait and see
Mm-hmm.
because is Darnold really going to play like this for the next few weeks, let's say?
But
Maybe.
without Love, I would give the edge slightly to Minnesota.
Sorry, did you say is that game at home for Green
Yeah.
Bay?
The only ones that are on the road are Tennessee and LA.
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
have 4 of the next 6 are at home.
yeah, and maybe I'm just looking at LA all wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still not completely sold
I'm not
about
either.
them. So, like they kind of gave that game away to the Lions. I mean, sure you
Mm-hmm.
can give them credit for like leading that game and
Mm-hmm.
winning for most of it, but they gave it away at the end. Um, and then yeah, I would say they lose to Indy, they lose to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so if they could steal, like you said, three of the next 6,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I would say that that's a positive. But ideally, yeah, the magic number there I feel like is 4. If they can somehow win 4 of those games, then
I think you're asking for too much by asking for 4. I'll give Malik 2. I may, if he's perfect, give him 3. I don't know if Malik Willis can go out there and win this team 4 games.
that's what I'm saying. I think it's gonna have to do with the defense,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, but again, not to make this about me, but like
Mm-hmm.
last year we saw Jake Browning
Yeah.
almost beat the Chiefs. And quite frankly, I feel like Malik Willis might have a higher,
Ceiling, floor.
yeah, ceiling
Okay.
than Browning because at
Yeah.
least he's an elite athlete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the thing that I think about with this is you just can't lose all 6. You just can't. And I don't think the Packers are, but you have to say it because any given Sunday, anything is possible. Anything can happen. Any team can go out there and beat anybody. I mean, I'm sorry, JD. Look at what happened to the Bengals week 1.
Yep.
Nobody expected it, and look what happened. But like, I don't know. I just look at it and I go, 2 wins is all I'm giving you for sure. Now the question is, you brought up a good point. Once Love's done, let's say Love we'll work with the assumption that it's 6 weeks. Because honestly, if it's 4 weeks and he's coming back against Arizona, like to me, the best case is 4 weeks. Not just because it's 4 weeks, but he comes back against Arizona, can ease him in against Arizona, and then boom, Houston, cool. I've had a game to go. If he's out 5 or 6 weeks though, it's interesting because if he's out 5 weeks, his first game is Houston. If he's out the whole 6 weeks, his first game back is in Jacksonville, which I'm not the highest on Jacksonville, but they're not a bad team. And to be coming off that injury against Jacksonville, it's not the easiest. But then after that Jacksonville game, oh, by the way, here you go. Here's the Lions at home. So, like, he's going to have to be ready to go right out of that injury if he's out 6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a tough part too because it's not like he's dealing with like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know like a injury to his non-throwing hand, like it's a knee injury, and
Uh-huh.
especially with a quarterback, I feel like part of you is going to be worried about getting hit in the legs,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think he's
You
gonna like
bring up
that's
a
the
good
thing.
point.
I don't I don't think it's realistic to expect him to come back like guns a blazing. I think with an MCL, it's gonna take him maybe a couple weeks to also get accumulated back with football.
I will say though, no one expected him to be as good as he was last year. So he may have that dog in him. He may not. We're going to have to, like, I hate to say it, but we're going to have to wait and see. Like, this was a guy last year that no one expected to be as good as he was. Like, oh man, they when he got drafted, it's like, wait, what? They're drafted. Do they not know who they have? They have Aaron Rodgers. And so far it's looked to pan out with Jordan Love. So like, this may be like, hey, I know your career is young, but Jordan, this is the first adversity you're going to have to face in your young career.
Yeah. And well, that's the thing, right? Like, because I feel like if somebody were to say that to him,
Mm-hmm.
he would disagree with that
Mm-hmm.
because, again, he went to school at Utah State. I'm pretty sure. Well, or no.
Yeah, you're right. Utah
Oh
State.
yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
yep,
yeah. I
yep.
was thinking. I
You were
was
thinking
thinking of.
BYU.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He went to school at Utah State, and I think he was somewhere else before that, like a JUCO school. Could be wrong about that part, but went to a small school at Utah or Utah State, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, you don't really see quarterbacks get drafted out of there. So he'll say that that was adversity there to even become a first round pick. Then the whole sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for like 3 years, and then finally becoming the starter last year. I think he would say, "Oh well, there was
Mm-hmm.
adversity there. No one believed in me to actually be able to start." So he would probably just check this up to just add another type of adversity to the list.
Mm-hmm. So by
But
the way, he did not go anywhere before Utah State. He
okay,
was
so he was there.
fresh. He redshirted in 2016. Freshman year was 2017. Sophomore year was 2018. 2019 was his junior year.
Yeah, no, I tripped myself up because
Mm.
for some reason I also got him confused with Trey Lance because
Yep.
Trey Lance went to North Dakota State.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So I was like, wait a minute, who went
Yeah.
where?
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to make it clear before someone in the
Yeah.
comments goes, well, actually, um, one thing I am looking at, I know the Packers can't control this, but hey, us as fans, we can look at it. So each of the teams in the NFC North, here's who they have in the 6 games. Let's say we're just going to, so there's no arguments. We're just going to say 6 weeks. If it's less, whatever. But for the sake of this discussion, we're just going to use 6 weeks as the baseline. So you have the Vikings. They have Houston this week, or I'm sorry, San Francisco this week, Houston next week, both of those at home, Green Bay on the road, New York overseas, a bye week, and then Detroit. Not the easiest schedule for Minnesota. Niners will be hard. Texans will be hard. Jets will be fairly difficult. Now, the thing with the Jets that I'm giving a little like tick of like the Vikings could win, that's a revenge game for Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big revenge game for Sam Darnold. And then after the bye week, Detroit. Detroit's no chopped liver. So what? You've got 3 of those 5 games? No, 4 of those 5 games are tough games. Minnesota is in a spot where they're going to have to be really good to win most of those games. You have Detroit. They're playing Tampa Bay this week, Arizona on the road next week, Seattle on Monday Night Football at home, then a bye week, and then Dallas on the road, Minnesota on the road. Not the hardest. Like, honestly, I do have the Buccaneers upsetting the Lions this week just because I wasn't impressed week 1 with the Lions. But like, Arizona should be a win. Seattle and Detroit, you don't have to deal with the 12th man, but that one, I would give the edge to the Lions, but I could see if the Seahawks beat them. And then Dallas will be tough. Minnesota, I would give the advantage to the Lions in that one. So it's like, what, the Lions maybe 1 or 2 games they lose? Maybe 3 if it's like, whoa, everything went wrong.
Yeah. So
well, just one last thing.
yeah.
Chi-Town. at Houston this week, at Indy next week, home against the Rams, home against the Panthers, London game against Jacksonville. Their next two are tough, especially for a rookie quarterback. The Rams, we'll see how they are week 4. Panthers should be a win. Jacksonville's a toss-up. It's in London.
Yeah.
So the Packers might luck out from their other divisional foes having harder schedules than them. Would you not say that each of these 3 teams have maybe a harder schedule than the Packers?
Yeah, I would say that's probably either on par or more difficult.
Yep.
So again, I think if I'm the Packers here, obviously this isn't like some new idea, obviously, but if you're the Packers, you want to win this division. I think that's going to be your ticket to getting into the playoffs.
Yep.
Now, it's still possible to make the playoffs by getting like the second seed in the division, but I think, yeah, with seeing those schedules, I mean, even with a backup quarterback, there's still a chance that you're fighting for that number 1 seed in the division.
At the end of the day, end of the season, do the Packers survive the Jordan Love injury? Do they still make the playoffs? Not win the division. We won't go that far, but do they make the playoffs even after this injury?
I'll say yes.
I'm going to say yes as well.
My reasoning is just because it's still early enough in the season. So, I mean, you can't really... if he was out for like 10 weeks, okay, well then maybe it's a little bit different. But you could still salvage your season, and I think the NFC is weak enough to where the Packers could still squeak in, even if they don't win the division.
Yeah.
It's just... obviously you're playing with fire in that scenario.
Well, this is where you guys come in, Packer fans. I want to know what you guys hear down below in that comment section. Let us know. How worried are you about the Jordan Love injury even a week after? And how do you see your team faring in the next 4 to 6 games? Let us know in that comment section. But JD, let's move on. Second thing we're going to talk about today. I asked you before the podcast, are we jumping the gun a little bit? You said no, so we kept this segment in. We're talking about the Giants, the G-Men, and it's not a good good discussion here, as we're talking about Mr. Danny Dimes, Mr. Daniel Jones of the New York Football Giants. Dude signed an extension with this team. He still has, after this year, 3 years left on his deal. However, there is a out with the Giants. They could end the contract after this year. Actually, I walked that back. 2 years after this one. It's this year and 2 more. They do have a potential out, though, after this year. If they do take that out, they will eat $22 million of dead cap for Danny Jones for, I think, the next 2 years while the contract is still going. Daniel Jones against Minnesota in game 1 at home. 22 of 42, just under or just over 50% of his pass completions, 186 yards, 2 interceptions, 0 touchdowns, was sacked 5 times. QBR of 16.2. Giants lose 28-6 to my Minnesota Vikings. Skull. Here's the question I'm going to ask you, JD. Is this the last year of Danny Dimes? Will the Giants be faux show drafting a quarterback this year in the NFL draft?
They should be. But to be fair, like I've been saying that they should have got rid of him at least 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He hasn't shown anything. Personally, I did not
But
like
he
him as
went
a
to the
prospect.
Manning School. He went to the Manning Academy. He went to Duke because of Peyton Manning and Eli Manning.
Yeah, well, clearly their grace didn't touch him because yeah, that boy stinks. That's the thing. Like again, even most people didn't like Daniel Jones coming out of Duke.
Yeah.
The Giants messed that pick up from day one. And then what did they do to fix that, Ricky?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what did they do to fix that?
They let Saquon walk to the Eagles.
Well, not just that.
They
No,
didn't fix their offensive line.
they gave him a massive contract
Yeah.
extension because why not? I guess, right? Like this
Why
isn't
not
like
him? Why not him,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and this isn't to rub salt in the wound for Giants fans. I
Mm-hmm.
do feel bad for you because your front office is incompetent. Um, yeah, it's just this should be the last straw. This guy sucks. The Giants did better with Tommy Cutlets at the helm.
Dude, I love Tommy Cutlets, dude.
Yeah,
Tommy Cutlets, baby.
but did that
Living
not
in
say
mom and
something?
dad's basement. Let's go.
Yeah, should that not say something though? Daniel
Yeah.
Jones is the problem. This team, realistically, isn't
Mm-hmm.
that bad.
Yeah.
Yes, the offensive line sucks.
5 sacks, not great. Are they all on
Yeah.
Daniel Jones?
No, I wouldn't say some
Like
of them were, but
sometimes it's like, wow, he hung onto the ball way
yeah.
too much. But not all of his sacks last year, this year, the years before were all his fault. That offensive line is Swiss cheese.
Yeah, they're bad. But that defense is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You also got a nice young wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. And so it's time to get an actual quarterback to lead this team. Now
Mm-hmm.
this year, I mean, there could be a couple quarterbacks that would suit the Giants. I'm thinking somebody like Shadur. Shadur could.
It's
Um,
interesting you say that because Tankathon right now, I know it's only week 1, but they would sit 7th overall. Shadur is the guy that Tankathon has going to the Giants at 7 overall.
yeah, I mean, really the only prospect
Mm-hmm.
that I would say that I wouldn't love
Mm-hmm.
is, as of right now, I would say that would probably be Quinn Ewers.
Okay.
But I really like Ewers. I just think that they need something. They need like I know Ewers is mobile,
Mm-hmm.
but they need somebody who is a little more athletic. I feel like they need like
Okay.
a schematic like that could help change their schematic or
Mm-hmm.
scheme. Yeah, scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And Quinn Ewers, I think he's more of a pocket passing quarterback,
Yeah.
which again, I really like him. I just don't know if he fits the Giants per se.
Mm-hmm. So you're
Um,
for sure looking for a more mobile, like a mobile
yeah,
guy, an
yeah,
athlete.
like a Milrow, I feel like could
Mm-hmm.
be interesting. Like I said, Shadur, even though I don't love Shadur, I think that
Mm-hmm.
could also be pretty interesting. Um,
You just like
uh,
Milrow because he's not on top of the athleticism. He's able to throw and run.
yeah, exactly. He again, especially with their wide receivers, I feel like their
Mm-hmm.
wide receivers are more like what they're not like six
They're
foot
fast.
four. Yeah,
Like Jalen
but
Hyatt, Malik Neighbors, they're
yeah,
fast, not tall.
yeah, and they're good at getting open in like
Uh
the
huh.
intermediate routes. So if you have somebody that can extend the play and then that will allow the wide receivers
Mm-hmm.
to, I guess, like change their route, I think that'd be more beneficial to that offense.
You know who else I would really you talking about? Okay, they need a guy. This guy, I wouldn't say athletic is the word that I would not use for him. Maybe I should. Maybe it's because I just have the stereotype. You know how it's like white quarterback. You don't want to call him athletic. Like
Yeah.
he's a spark plug. I like Jackson Dart though, dude. Jackson Dart's a guy. He's not going to be the quickest runner, but he's a guy that can throw the ball and he can run with the ball. But yet again, it's a different kind of running than like what you may see with like an AR in the league right now, with a Milrow who's in college right now. I hate to say it, the Giants might not need to look to the first round for a quarterback. Now I say this week 2, before week 2 of the NFL season. Like right now, many people have Carson Beck and Shadur Sanders as the only first round quarterback. Some have Quinn Ewers slipping up in there, but like Tankathon right now, actually I'll say 3. I will put Ewers in there. So Tankathon has Beck, Sanders, Ewers as the only first round quarterbacks. Everyone else right now is in the second. How many of those guys rise into the first? I know you and I talked about it a little bit on the draft room, mainly between Beck and Sanders, but like if Milroe, let's say, doesn't get into the first round, the Giants might not need to use a first round pick on a quarterback is kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, and I would agree with that because even if you look outside of the top quarterbacks, I know this guy has been talked about as a potential top quarterback, but I don't absolutely love him. I know Kai does, but Connor Weekman from Texas A&M, he's kind of like what I just talked about. He has really good arm talent as well as he's good at extending plays, like slipping through the tackles and just avoiding the pass rushers. So I think that can be something very beneficial to the Giants. And before any Giants fan says, "Oh, well, JD, Daniel Jones actually does roll out and run for first down."
He can run. Danny Dimes got legs, but he's not athletic.
No, he can't do both. Like I've rarely seen it where I see Daniel Jones rolling out of the pocket and hucking the ball 50 yards downfield. You don't see that. If he takes off, he's running with it. There's no throwing throwing on the run.
The other thing I'm thinking about here, give me literally like 2 seconds. I got to do like 2 seconds of research before I because you got to get it's like, okay, what is he even? I'm going to throw out a thought to you. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's say the Giants sit there and they're like, you know what? We're not sold on Beck or Sanders or Quinn Ewers. Do the Giants come together and go, okay, we're going to take the best prospect available outside a quarterback that's going to help this team. We keep Danny Jones for 1 more year. Basically, at that point, it's like, okay, you're keeping him for the whole contract then, because the potential out is this year. You keep him for 1 more year, meaning then he's down to his last year of his contract. I'm even going to fact check if I'm right there, because I believe... Give me that spot rack real quick. Yeah, so after this year, the potential out is this year. After this year, if they keep him, they got to keep him for 2 more years unless they trade him. You say, okay, we're going to keep you. You let the 2025 season play out. But let's be honest, you keep him to a tight leash of like, hey, if you don't look good, we're going to bench you. And basically, the thing I'm going to, JD, is do they in 2025 say, hey, we're going to keep you and just hope we're better? You might not even have to keep him to a short leash. Just let him play, because you're not going to win games. And basically the 2025 year, you forego quarterback this year to in 2025 tank for Arch Manning. Because Arch Manning right now is year 2. Next year would be year 3. He would be eligible for the draft after next season. Now, will Arch come out after 3 years? Will he stay a 4th year? That nobody knows right now. But if Arch is going to come out after 3 years, would the Giants not just go, hey, let's not worry about drafting a quarterback this year, only if they're not for sure on Beck or Sanders or even Ewers, and say, you know what? We're going to tank for Arch next year.
I don't love that dude because, like I said, I think
you don't love it because you don't want Arch to go to the Giants and have his career ruined.
No, it actually has nothing to do with that. Well, for me, it's more of a 2-point answer.
Okay.
So first, like I said, I'm pretty much stuck in the mud on my belief with Daniel Jones. If you have an out, you got to use it. Even if you don't have an alternative at quarterback, like if you don't take a quarterback in the first round this upcoming draft, maybe take one in the second round. You got to do that. You got to try something new. This Daniel Jones experiment is done. It's
Mm-hmm.
dead. You got to move on and cut bait, and he can be a backup or maybe a starter
Now,
somewhere else.
now I'm going to throw in a quick question. Does the $22 million dead cap scare you? Or is it a, hey, maybe we keep him while drafting a quarterback, let a Sanders or a Beck or a Ewers or even any of the other quarterbacks, we're going to do the Jordan Love, the Aaron Rodgers, where it's like, you're going to sit behind him for 2 years. Once his contract's done, though, he's gone and it's your time.
I don't think so, because in that situation, you're just gonna piss the fan base off even
Okay.
more. Because I think Giants fans would agree. Let's just say hypothetically
Mm-hmm.
they draft somebody like Shadur.
Yeah.
Even though again, I don't love him as a prospect, but he's gonna be the exciting
Mm-hmm.
quarterback next year. The
Like you
fans are
said,
gonna be
you can't
clamoring.
draft him and then just sit him.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
he's gonna sell jerseys, and the fans are gonna want him to start.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when your quarterback, again, is about 3 years past his exit date. And yeah, so with that, I think, like, you can't keep kicking the can down the road. And then my other
Mm-hmm.
point is, again, even for as good as we all think Arch Manning is gonna be,
Mm-hmm.
we also just don't know yet. And it'd be kind of dumb to be like, all right, let's just hope that this guy's good and in 3 years, and then take, or 2 years and then take him. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't be living that far into the future when with the NFL, just because again, things change all the time. There's
Yeah.
times where a quarterback is good as a freshman or a
Mm-hmm.
sophomore and then stinks as a junior.
Let's be honest though, Arch Manning, he's different, dude. Like
I wouldn't say so,
he's
man.
different. Like this is gonna be so. Like I will, for a fact, put it down that next year when we're talking about the draft, if he's gonna come out, we're talking about him the same way we looked at Andrew Luck, the suck for luck. The same way we looked at those bona fide number one overall pick quarterbacks.
See, I disagree because again, I watched a lot of his high school film,
Mm-hmm.
and
How many guys
I'm
sucked in
on.
high school and then became great in college?
But my point is, dude, he was a number one recruit coming out of high school by
Mm-hmm.
far.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on the side with with like other people
Mm-hmm.
that if his last name wasn't Manning, he probably wouldn't have even been a 5-star talent. He would have probably been a 4-star.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my beef. There's all this hype behind him because of his last name. Sure, in his limited reps with the first team for Texas, he's been okay
Mm-hmm.
for freshman and with limited reps. But from pure talent, I just I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion that he's gonna be the number one overall pick in 2 years.
Well, it would be. Well, I mean, technically, too. Like, not this draft, but next
Yeah,
draft.
yeah.
I I disagree. I think that he's gonna yet again development. I think that the only thing I can knock him on is I have a little questions about his awareness and his ball security because he can't hang on to a college ID to save his life. He's got bad awareness. You know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't know where things are and he keeps losing stuff. Um, you brought this guy up. I'm just gonna throw it out there because I was looking at walterfootball.com. They usually do like the hey, like I know it's 2025, but let's take a look at next year's draft and do a mock that way. They have Jalen Milroe as the number one overall pick, not this year, but next year. What would you mentioned Milroe for the Giants here? What would you say? I know we're early in the year, but percentage that Milroe stays in college because he's played 4 years, but that first year he only played a game or two and got redshirted.
I would say honestly, I would say it's probably more of a 50-50.
Okay. So there's not even
Yeah,
a quarterback like him. He might not even come out this year.
Yeah, well, and my reasoning for that is, again, he redshirted, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so this is, well, he started last year, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Started last year and then this year, obviously he's starting. And my only kind of like reasoning for it is that he might want to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he cuz let's just say he has a good season this year. I think it'll be still harder for him to be the number 1 overall pick, let's
Mm-hmm.
say. So he might run it back and run his chances of becoming the number 1 overall pick next year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like he has decent size, right? Like he's 6'2", and what's his weight? I can't find a weight, but he's not a small guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's about like average, a little maybe a little shorter than you would like, but he runs a 4.6, so not terribly slow. Well, not really slow at all, really, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and he's just a good dual threat quarterback. So I kind of think he would maybe take his chances and go back to Alabama for another year, just because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really hurt anything.
Yeah.
You have guys like Mac Jones who did that and wasn't half the prospect
Mm-hmm.
that he was. So
It's just gonna be interesting, dude, with these Giants. Like, obviously, it comes down to what the Giants are gonna do this year. But at the end of the year and end of the discussion, I think both you and I agree, Daniel Jones ain't the answer.
no,
Whether it's Milrow this year, Milrow next year, Shadur this year, Beck this year, Ewers this year, Arch next year, something's got to give.
yeah,
Before we end this segment, there was one thing I was going to bring up that you and I have to. I know it's different podcast, but you and I have to atone to it. You ready for this?
yeah.
The MVP curse lives on, JD. You're familiar with the MVP curse,
Yeah,
right? We say
yeah.
something on the podcast, the exact opposite happens.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm referencing this week in college football?
oh, college.
Who did we talk about last time on the draft room? A certain quarterback, and neither you or I were very high of him, and we kind of like we didn't say he sucked, but we were like, you know what, Shadur's probably gonna overtake him at some point.
Is it Beck?
Yeah, we didn't say anything bad about him, but we were both like not the highest on him. And
Yeah.
I find it funny. We're just like, yeah, you know what? It's like it's a product of the system, dude. Like he's just a Georgia court, and then goes out and says, okay, I'm gonna throw for 240 yards, 5 touchdowns, 18 of 25 completions to attempts. Yeah, I know it's Tennessee Tech, but I'm just gonna have one of the best games of my life on Saturday. And I was watching that, and I'm just sitting there going, is he playing well because of us? Because of what we said? Is he balling out because of us? Well,
You know, I think I did notice that actually in the touchdown.
when I noticed he had 5 touchdowns, I'm like, yep, I'm taking credit for that. That's an MVP curse. Talk right over it. But Giant fans, I want to hear from you. JD wants to hear from you. What do you guys think down below? What's the plan with Daniel Jones? You targeting a quarterback this draft? What quarterback do you want? Let us know down below in that description. And JD, now the fun part of the podcast. You ready? You ready for this?
Yeah.
Takeaways from week 1. I'm just going to say this, JD. The floor is yours.
Well, it's probably the biggest story of week 1. Bengals losing to the New England
I
Patriots.
had a feeling you were going to start with them.
Yeah, I mean, I did like it's the only place you can start. That
Yeah.
was it's atrocious.
Mhm.
And again, though, this is what I'm if you haven't watched our AFC North breakdown,
Mhm.
I literally said it about the Bengals in that video.
Mhm.
This team had to start off fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I picked them to beat the Patriots, and and now they play the Chiefs this week, and they run the risk of going 0-2 for third straight year. And I think the thing that concerned me the most
Mm-hmm.
about this game
Mm-hmm.
is that the defense looked the exact same as last year. You have guys missing tackles. They had, I think it was 14 missed tackles, which was a season high
Yeah.
or a game high or in a season since 2019, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can't have that, but I expected it because again, they did literally nothing to address the issues. They
Yeah.
brought in Geno Stone, who is a good coverage safety, but the guy
Mm-hmm.
can't tackle to save his life.
Yeah.
They bring in Sheldon Rankins at 3 tech as a 3 tech defensive tackle, and guy provided 0 pass rush. And the thing with him was, oh, he had 6 sacks last year.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them came against the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Half of his sacks. So that's not, and I know sacks aren't everything. There's pressures, and
Yeah.
we'll get to that. In this game, again, too, besides the missed tackles, the pass rush did all. Sorry,
You're
I didn't
fine. You're
want to
fine.
swear, but they did
I
nothing.
was expecting a lot
Yes,
more in
yeah,
this
yeah.
segment, to be honest with you.
Trey Hendrickson had 6 pressures, which is great. But then on the other defensive end,
Mm-hmm.
Sam Hubbard had he had PFF tracks a win rate percentage each game.
Yeah.
Sam Hubbard had a 0% win rate. He did not beat a single block.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that's even possible as a
Yeah.
starting defensive end, but here
Mm-hmm.
we are. And this was my problem. And I get it. Amarius Mims could be a home run pick, could be one of the best offensive tackles in the league
Mm-hmm.
eventually. You needed to draft pass rush. You needed to draft a 3 tech.
Yeah.
And okay, you got Chris Jenkins in the second round. He's hurt
Mm-hmm.
and never really projected to be an elite pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't really fix that. Miles Murphy, who you drafted in the first round last year, was
Mm-hmm.
primed for a big season, and he looked good in the preseason and in training camp. He's hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and then go into the offensive side of the ball. You have Trent Brown as your starting right tackle right now. Guy sucked. He came into camp overweight and has been playing catch up, and he was horrible. Then your offensive guards, you spent a lot of money on them in 2022, and but realistically, they weren't that great. Well, sorry, your one guard in Alex Kappa, and
Mm-hmm.
then you drafted Cordell Volson.
Mm-hmm.
But Alex Kappa was never really an elite guard. He was never a Pro Bowl guard. He was
Yeah.
just a good starter, and he's starting to fall off. So that's a bit of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, now you have T. Higgins who's injured, and he's probably not going to play this week. And then Jamar Chase in this whole contract situation, and that's what I want to touch on
Go
as
ahead.
well. This not only are the Bengals losers on the field, it came out here. I have it written down actually. Let me just pull this up. So it came out that basically the Bengals and Chase had a deal
Mm-hmm.
in place, and they just had to move a couple numbers around, and basically then I think it was the day of the game. Chase wanted a bit more guaranteed money.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing crazy, just a bit more. I think it was just a higher percentage, and then the Bengals were like, "No, we're not doing that. We'll renegotiate next year." So that was the reason that contract did not get done. They had an agreement, and then Chase wanted a little bit more money,
Mm-hmm.
which okay, nothing crazy. And the deal still would have paid him over 100, over 140 million over 4 years.
Yeah.
And then and this is my problem, and
Mm-hmm.
this is going into a whole other rant, and I'll try to keep it quick.
No, go.
But
Go.
but
Preach.
but but I said this for as long as I've been a Bengals fan. Mike
Mm-hmm.
Brown is the cheapest owner in
Mm-hmm.
the entire NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, "Oh no, he spent money here and here." We lose our best players besides our quarterback.
Yeah.
We there's no reason why you couldn't have signed. Or sorry, let me just run this down. You didn't sign Jesse Bates to an extension because you needed to bring back T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure, whatever.
But if
Jesse
a
Bates.
Jamar Chase deal doesn't get done,
Yeah, yeah. Well. Let's say this: Jesse Bates is one of the best safeties in the league, and he's balling out in Atlanta, and our
yeah.
defense has been hurting since he's left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we're gonna have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Okay, no, no, no. Now we're not gonna have T. Higgins. He wants too much money, and we need to sign Chase and Burrow. Okay, so okay, I guess that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, I'm not saying we're not gonna re-sign Chase. I think we will, but you're causing this animosity and distractions in the locker room for
Mm-hmm.
what? Because you don't want to get off your pocket. Then if you don't want to spend, because again, for people that don't know, the Brown family, they they didn't really come with money. Like
Mm-hmm.
they don't have another source of income. Their only source of income is the Bengals. So
Mm-hmm.
they treat it like a typical businessman would treat a their own business, right?
Yeah. There's
Like
no
they're not.
like there's no other source of income.
Yeah.
This is the source of income.
Yes. So that's part of the problem. But then okay, then you need to get a private investor to invest in this
Mm-hmm.
team to help you, because this is like you can't be running this team like it's 1980.
Yeah.
You got to keep up with the
Cool.
times.
You know this
Sorry.
better than I do. I just want a quick question. How in how involved is the owner in
Involved.
contract negotiations for the Bengals?
Well, it's his money, right? So his
Okay.
daughter, so basically it's his whole family,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have Katie Blackburn, who she's mainly like like the person that like sits
Mm-hmm.
down with the contract,
Yeah.
and I believe is it her husband? I think it's her and her husband really
Mm-hmm.
that deal with the contracts. But then yeah, but Mike Brown is obviously like he still goes to practice
Yeah.
and he talks to the players and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But like they're all really involved. But again, he once Mike Brown dies, the
Mm-hmm.
team's obviously going to go down to his daughter, but his
Mm-hmm.
daughter runs the team like him,
Yeah.
because again, they're billionaires, right? They want to
Mm-hmm.
keep their wealth.
I,
So,
I only ask because like when I was watching Hard Knocks with the Bears this year,
yeah.
I'm sure that McCaskey's kids have conversations with polls and stuff, but like the DJ Moore contract, it kind of seemed like the McCaskies were a little bit hands off to where it was like, hey, Ryan, this is what we pay you to do. Get it done.
No.
And
Well,
Ryan,
yeah,
it seemed like Ryan Poles was the main guy in that contract. Like, obviously, there was, I can't remember who the guy's name was. Basically, like, sat down. I think it was like the budget guy. He's basically like, well, what's this going to do to the budget? And the guy's like, oh, yeah, okay, that's a really good contract. Like,
yeah.
it just seemed like the McCaskies gave Ryan Poles, like, hey, you get this done. We trust in you. This is what we're paying you to do.
No, so basically, I would say the Bengals kind of operate, well,
So, like,
I
they don't
guess
have a
not.
general manager like Ryan
Well,
Poles.
they do. His name's Duke Tobin, but the
Uh-huh.
problem is, like Duke Tobin, I don't know. I guess he's just there collecting a paycheck
I've
because
never heard of his name before.
yeah, he's the general manager, but it's like it goes coaching staff, and then
Mm-hmm.
Duke Tobin should be here, but then it just skips over him,
Okay.
and then goes to the ownership group,
Yeah.
and that's part of the problem. Because then my other problem, because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's the same thing with this stupid ownership team. Well, not even team,
Mm-hmm.
family is they refuse to get rid of a coach. We had
Yeah.
Marvin Lewis from what 2001
Yeah. Refused
until
to fire him.
yeah
He was
until
he JD. You probably remember from listening to Mark and I. He was a running joke here on the onside kick that he
yeah
still had a job every Black Tuesday,
yeah
or I'm sorry, Black Monday.
yeah. And again, and here's the thing, and I will stand on this, and I will be unbiased.
Stand on business.
But okay, Zach Taylor, Bengals head coach.
Zack attack.
Honestly, honestly, great locker room coach. He's a great coach for a
Mm-hmm.
rebuilding slash early contending type team.
Yeah.
Like if you want to change the culture of your team,
Mm-hmm.
he is the guy you want to have. The problem is he doesn't get you to the next level. His play calling, and this is what's okay. Side note: this is what's driving me absolutely freaking bananas. Is I with my college team, I deal with a coach who can't call offense to save their life, and for the Bengals, it's the same damn deal. I literally they're the same.
You also for Florida have a coach who can't open a water bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
The week 1 he tried to open the water bottle during his press conference and couldn't do it.
Yep. And that's the thing. So like this team, like Zach Taylor, his time, I know the players, Burrow loves him, the ownership loves him, everybody loves him besides the fans. But brother, going back to the original point, which was the game, it is a 4th and 2. And I know this is a little bit on Burrow, obviously, but so you're going for it, I think, on New England's 48-yard line. 4th and 2, you throw the ball behind the sticks on a 4th and 2, and then you get stopped.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the game, okay, New England punts you the ball. You have a chance to march down the field and win the game. An atrocious drive. An atrocious drive. It's now 4th and 5. And what do? You punt the football when your defense can't stop a run. What's his name? Freaking De'Mondre Stevenson. He ran for 120 yards or 130 or something like that. I think it was 120.
Yeah.
And do you want to know what a crazy stat is, Ricky?
What?
So 114 of those 120 yards came after contact. So your defense couldn't tackle.
Yeah.
And he was just running wild. And so you punt them the ball. Everybody knows they're going to run the ball to end the game, and you still can't stop it. So what was the point of punting the ball?
Yeah, literally that final drive was incomplete, pass to Moss for 5 yards, punt, and then the Patriots 5-yard rush, timeout, 9-yard rush, 2-minute warning, then 3-yard rush, timeout number 2, 9-yard rush, timeout number 3, and then kneel. You're done.
Yeah. And again, and before people say, "Oh, well, you're just overreacting,"
Well,
here's the thing.
I do want to cut in. Is there a little bit of overreaction here? Is the season really over after week 1?
No.
Okay.
It's not. But the thing is, and this is why I'm saying it's not an overreaction, is because again, with the slow starts, we've seen it for the last 4 years. Really since the Super Bowl run. And again, this isn't a dig at you, Ricky.
Yeah.
We've won one season opener since Zach Taylor's 1-5 or 1-6 in
What do you mean a dig at me though?
Because we beat the Vikings.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that game even existed, dude.
Yeah, in 2021, the year we went to the Super Bowl, that was the only time we've won a season opener under Zach Taylor.
Dude, I forgot that season even existed.
No.
You said 2021?
Yeah, that was the year we went to the Super Bowl.
That was an overtime win for you? Who was even on my team? Dalvin Cook was on this team? Dalvin Cook had a good game, 61 yards and a touchdown.
I think he fumbled.
Dude, Alan Thielen had a game, dude. 9 catches, 92. I miss Adam Thielen. 2 touchdowns in that game. I miss Adam Thielen, man. But, Jamar Chase had a game, though. 101 yards and a touchdown on 5 catches.
That was his first game.
T. Higgins, 4 catches, 58 yards. We should rewatch this game. I don't even care if we lost.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook did fumble and he lost.
But yeah, so this is my thing. I'm going to say it's not an overreaction because it's a trend.
Yeah.
And again, if the Bengals somehow, by the grace of God,
dude, Joe Mixon
the Chiefs
too. I digress. Dude, he had 127 rushing yards and a touchdown against us.
Yeah.
You guys cooked us. I know you only won by 3 in overtime, but you cooked us.
Yeah, no, that was a good game. I remember that.
Kirk Cousins even played well. Jeez. Justin Jefferson in a pass. Okay, I got to stop looking at this box score. Go ahead.
But yeah, so it's just a trend. And this could all be written off to the side if the Bengals somehow beat the Chiefs, which I'm not
Yeah.
picking them to beat the Chiefs. But and again, the season isn't over, but it's the same BS, and it's this the team did it to themselves. From the stupid
Yeah.
distractions with Jamar Chase and disrupting the offense because you have Chase not practicing because you can't agree to a contract with a top 5 wide receiver in the league. And he's the only wide receiver that didn't get a contract out of the top wide receivers who needed one.
Mm-hmm.
Or not needed one, but we're talking about getting
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's just the season can still be decent. You still have
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow and he's healthy. He just got shook up in the first game, and we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely frustrating. But my frustrations come from the same old with this team,
Mm-hmm.
with the ownership group not knowing how to spend money and refusing to change coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's that.
So we're gonna have to move on to a different team now.
Yeah, yeah. No, I did. I knew I was gonna go a little long
That
on
was
that
about
one.
a 20-minute rant for JD on the Bengals. I will say, kind of to like, here's the thing. My takeaways from week 1. I'm shocked at my own team. That's a little side note. Thought we were going to lose to the Giants. I underestimated how bad the Giants were. Listen to our second segment for that. There's really 3 big takeaways I have from this week, JD. And you tell me what you think of these. Number 1. Actually, I'll ask you. Door number 1, door number 2, door number 3.
Door one.
Door number 1. Buccaneers are going to be good this year. I know they played the Commanders, and I didn't expect the Commander. Like, this was a game that I was like, I didn't hate either team after this game. Like, I know the Commanders lost by 17 points, but the Buccaneers looked amazing. And even in 17 points of defeat, the Commanders didn't look god awful. Like, Jaden Daniels played like a rookie, but like,
He flashed.
he flashed. That's a great word. Jaden Daniels, 88 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Through the air was serviceable. Didn't have any touchdowns. He took care of the ball, didn't throw an interception. Austin Eckler probably could have been more involved in my opinion, but hey, game 1 with him. We'll see how it goes moving forward. This Buccaneer team, like Bucky Irving, my dude from Oregon. I loved Bucky Irving at Oregon. I was happy to see him have a great game. Godwin, was I talking to you that night? I was talking to Sean, moderator in the Discord, about while I'm going through bets, I'm like, I can't bet on Chris Godwin. Whenever I do, he just screws me. 83 yards and a touchdown. I should have bet on him more than Amon-Ra St. Brown, because Amon-Ra St. Brown did some things that I can't say on this podcast, or else I'd get us canceled. I was very angry at that. Mike Evans, 2 scores. Jalen McMillan, Washington rookie, he got himself a score. I know it was only, a 32-yard reception, but he got himself a score. I'll ask you, Buccaneers for real, or is this just an overreaction to one game against a team they should have beaten? Like, am I right? Could they upset the Lions this week?
I think they definitely could upset the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your first part of your question,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I would say it's a little bit of an overreaction because I still think that they're going to win the division,
Mm-hmm.
but like I don't see them being like a 13-win team.
No.
I
But
see
they're going to
them
be a
still
good
being
team.
like,
They're going to be a playoff team.
yeah. I think they're going to win the division.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there's that. But I think they're going to be competitive. I think they could definitely upset the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of like what you said at the beginning of the show,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more so because the Lions didn't really impress me in week 1.
I was going to bring them up. I was not impressed from the Lions.
No.
In that
I don't
Sunday
know what
night
they're doing
game.
with Jameer Gibbs.
I don't know what they're doing. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
Like, this is a team where it's like, I know they got the win. Vastly different opening game than last year when they beat the defending Super Bowl champions.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, And again, we should have expected it though, because the Lions last year, they didn't really catch anyone by surprise, but last year
Mm-hmm.
was their first like real coming out party of like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've said this with like teams like but with the Texans
Mm-hmm.
and and teams like that sometimes start out of the gate pretty slow. It's
Mm-hmm.
because like I think they're a little overconfident,
Yeah.
and I think that might be what's happening with the Lions.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll be honest. I know I only picked it as a 1 in the MVP confidence pool, but I got the Buccaneers beating the Lions this week.
Dang.
I don't know if I should have more confidence in that.
Wait, I think I might have actually done the same.
I got the Bucks beating the Lions. I just don't like the only saving grace for the Lions that they play the Cardinals week 3. Like this is
Yeah,
a team where I got them losing to the Bucks. They could we talked about it earlier with the Jordan Love stuff. They could lose to the Seahawks.
I still have the Lions
They
winning, but
could. Like the Seahawks, I don't think I'm not as high on the Seahawks after week 1 as I am in the Buccaneers.
yeah, they
But
kind of disappointed me.
and obviously things are gonna change. Like week 1 isn't like, oh, this is what you are the rest of the year. I don't know. I'm just weirdly down on the Lions after week 1. Like it's just like maybe it's because Amon-Ra didn't really get going at all, and like our team just gonna figure out. All right, like we'll basically focus on Amon-Ra. We'll let Williams do whatever he wants. If he goes off, he ain't gonna beat us.
I think we're missing we're
Go ahead.
skipping over probably the biggest factor.
Go ahead.
Jared Goff looked horrible.
Mm-hmm.
He looked awful. He looked like Jared Goff of like 4 years ago. And again, though, like to be fair,
Mm-hmm.
I only know this because of how often Kai and I talk about the Lions and
Yeah.
football. Jared Goff does do that though. There's certain games where he like reverts back to himself with the
Mm-hmm.
Rams,
Yeah.
and then there's times that he looks like the new and improved Jared
Yeah.
Goff, where he actually looks like a decent quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just have to wait and see. I just think with week 1, all the overreactions are out there because it's the only thing we can base the
Mm-hmm.
season off of.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if Jared Goff sucks again this week, then maybe we'll raise an eyebrow to that.
Very quick point before we move on to the very last thing we're gonna do. My third point, and it doesn't need a huge discussion. It's just takeaway. The rookie quarterbacks, mainly Williams and Daniels, are going to be fine. They're going to be okay. They didn't have stellar week 1 games. I think Jaden Daniels had a better one than Caleb, but they were both confident. They were both strong. They didn't turn over the ball. They're going to be fine.
I do want to say one more thing, and I might have been wrong about Bryce Young. That dude was on the struggle bus against the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had like 3 interceptions.
He may be the worst quarterback in the league.
Yeah, that guy, man, he can't throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
His decision making is horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for Panthers fans.
Last thing, JD, before we call it quits, I know we got about 10 minutes until we hit the time limit for podcast services, so we'll keep this short. It's a new segment. Not going to bring it back every week, but every now and then, if one of us has an issue with something, it's called flag on the field or flag on the play, whatever it is. What'd I text you?
Flag on the play.
What'd I text you? Did I text you flag on the play?
I think so.
That's what it's called, flag on the play. And this is a segment where one of us comes in and says, "Hey, I got a problem with something. I'm throwing the penalty flag here. I have a problem, JD. And the thing that I have a problem with this week is Tyreek Hill. I cannot, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Dude gets arrested, and the first thing I see is like, oh man, Tyreek Hill got arrested. Like, I wonder what he did. Well, everyone else is like, oh man, this is a travesty. I'm like, I wonder what he did. Comes in, after the game, oh man, I just want to work together with them. Like, we got to be better. We got to be better for the community. Then the body cam comes out, JD. And lo and behold, guess what happened? The dude was an asshole. Not saying that, yet again, not saying that the cops were 100% right. Things were escalated fairly quickly. But the dude comes up, says, don't knock on my window. Oh, go ahead, do what you do. And then rolls up the window. Like, regardless of if it's a cop or not, that's just disrespectful in general. If someone's talking to you, you just roll up your window like that. It's like, I look at it and it goes, what did you expect to happen? What did you expect to happen? And like, the whole thing with me with this is Tyreek Hill knew how he acted, but then after the game had the audacity to try to deflect the blame and put it on 100% on the cops and take none of the blame for himself, yeah. JD.
No, and that's what I'm just gonna say. And I mean, like, if you don't agree with this, that's your prerogative there. That's your opinion, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I'm on Ricky's side with this. And I said this in the Discord, and I mean, again, this is my opinion, but I feel like, quite frankly, if you disagree, then okay.
Yeah. You're allowed to disagree. We live in America.
Yeah. Well, I don't, but
well, you're gonna live in America.
Yeah. But
I know up there in Looney Tune land, you're not allowed to disagree with anything.
Yeah. But no, I mean, you're never going to convince me to feel sympathy for this piece of. He is a pregnant woman beating person, and he beats children. So, quite frankly, karma's again, with Ricky, the cops weren't in the right. They escalated the situation. Or they were part of the escalation process.
I'm gonna really quickly rephrase what you just said, though. It's not that the cops were in the wrong. It was that one escalation led to overheatedness.
Yeah,
like that's the thing where it's like it all comes back to, if he was just calm and cool, it would have just been like, hey, it probably just would have been like, hey man, like, just slow down. Okay, cool. All right, get to the game. And it would have been that.
No, exactly. And then, I mean, again, we're not going to go into a deep political rant, but there'll be some counter arguments to that. But no, dude, it's, again, if you just comply and don't be an asshole, like you said, guess what, buddy? You might get a ticket, and, guess what? A ticket like that to you means nothing because of the amount of money you make.
And and not you, but like Tyreek Hill lives in America. We also have, you get a ticket. Well, guess what you get to do? You get to go to court and dispute that ticket if you think you were wrongfully given a ticket.
Yeah. But my big problem with this comes from what you said last. He starts off by, okay, yeah, we got to work together. And then the body cam stuff comes out, and then he starts playing this victim. Like, he's been so wronged in his life. Like, brother, you make millions and millions of dollars, and like I said, you're an asshole. So quit crying, and if you're gonna be a bully to people that are lesser than you, and you're not gonna convince me to feel bad for you because somebody hurt your leg or made you sit on the ground. No, man, grow a set of balls, be a man, and take it to the chin, and then move on with your day. Because, quite frankly, nobody should be taking world advice from you.
I will say this is kind of my, like, I could go into a huge discussion about, like, point by point, but it just comes down to, he was wrong for basically, hey, I'm going to go ahead and put the blame somewhere else, when, guess what? We live in a world, JD, where video is always there. Video will always catch you in 4K, and he got caught in 4K. But I also throw this flag not just on Tyreek. I throw this flag on the Dolphins. I throw this flag on Roger Goodell even. Now, I'm not going to go as far to say, like, oh, you should have got a 3-game suspension. I'm not going to go that far. It was a simple traffic interaction that probably would have led with a ticket, would have got probably, because of who he is, which is a different discussion, shouldn't be held above the law or above you or I, but that's a different discussion for another day. Probably got a slap on the wrist, and boom, you're off on your day.
Yeah, probably just a warning.
Hey, just do you mind slowing down? Like you're in a construction zone. Would have been it because of who he is and what kind of like famous person he is. But the Dolphins didn't come, like, yet again, they're gonna back their own guy, but it's like when somebody's in the wrong, they need to be held accountable. Just like if I was in the wrong, I'd be held accountable. Just like if you were wrong, you'd be held accountable. Anybody, if you're wrong, you're held accountable. That's all this comes down to. And like, I hope the statement that I read from CBS Sports where like Tyreek was very much like, you know what, I shouldn't have spoke like I did. I hope he actually means those words. And it wasn't just his agent Drew or the team saying, hey, you got to put this out here. This doesn't look good after the video. I hope he actually believes the words that came out of his mouth second. Because yes, we all make mistakes. But it's the ones where it's like you make the mistake and then you don't want to learn from it. Those are the people that I have a problem with. It's a bad situation. I'm throwing the flag on it. And I hope that Tyreek Hill learns something from this situation and walks away with it and not just goes, hey, it'll be over in a week.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This is where we're going to end the podcast. See, this is why I didn't want to do this, like, in between a segment, because it's like, we'd have to do this and then go, so JD, takeaways from week one? What do you got from week one? Let us know what you guys think down below about anything we talked about during this podcast. JD, the Bengals will be better. It's okay. Woosah. Bengals will be a better team, and my team will lose games. So it won't be exactly like this week. But let us know what you guys think. Discord down below in the description, along with our Patreon if you would like to support us, along with all of our social links, TikTok, Instagram, Twitters. You can check those out in the description. If you like the podcast, hit that like button. If you loved it, hit the subscribe button. Comment section, as always, is open for anything you guys want to talk about. JD, another great podcast. I cannot wait. Next week, we get a mock draft from you and I, and we get a big board from you and I. It's a big week next week.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for everything you do. Thank you. JD and I will be back next week to talk about more football news. Well, next week for a mock draft, week after, more football news. Thank you guys for everything you do. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
See ya.
As always, we'd like to thank the people that make these videos possible, our patrons whose names are displayed on the screen now. If you would like to become a patron, go ahead and click the Patreon icon in the bottom right. And if you'd like to check out another video from MVP Sports, hit the video in the upper left. As always, thanks for watching.